What's going on, everybody? Happy Tuesday. Welcome to another edition of Giants Collective. As you see, it's boys' night out tonight. I was joined by Anthony next to me over here. Chris there on the far right. If you're looking at the screen, I guess he's on my left over here. But whatever. One or the other. You see us in our beautiful faces here. As always, we appreciate you tuning in. Hit the thumbs up, subscribe. It helps us out. Big shout out to Sleeper and SeatGeek for sponsoring Giants Collective this football season. As always, you guys can check us out on TikTok and Instagram as well. Links are in the description below. You can also check us out wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, iHeartRadio, all that good stuff. If you listen to us on Apple, you can leave a 5-star review. That would also help the show out greatly. Not really going to beat around the bush here. Anthony, give us your take on that debacle in Denver.
My number one takeaway from that game is that there is a talented New York Giants football team on the field this season. I think we saw it in 2 of the 3 phases of the game. I think we saw a very talented young quarterback. I think we saw a very talented young running back. And I even think there is a lack of playmaking talent, but Wan'Dale Robinson stepped up. Theo Johnson in the first half struggled, and then he stepped up and made a heroic play in the second half. Daniel Bellinger stepped up. Players stepped up, and the offensive line played a damn good football game against one of the best defensive lines in football. And then for 3 quarters, that defense looked elite. They shut out a Denver Broncos offense. The pass rush was getting home. The secondary was making plays. 3 quarters of elite defensive football.
And Anthony,
and you
could even go back to the previous week, 5.5 consecutive quarters of elite defense. They
exactly.
shut out the Eagles, for the Giants.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you take that 2-game sample size, that game and a half sample size, say it is, and then they get to the 3rd or the 4th quarter, that final moment when you really need your coaching staff to just ice the game, because there's only so much that the players can do. You have to manage the clock in a situation like that, and the players can't do that for the coaches. The coaches have to manage the clock, run the clock out. And the coaching staff, to me, failed a talented roster in that game. And it's not the first time this season that it's happened. So my main takeaway is there's talent on the football field. There is some hope for Giants fans because we do have a young quarterback with some promise. We do have some pieces on both sides of the ball that are highly impressive. But the hope can only stretch so far when you have a head coach that continuously allows his team to shoot itself in the foot. It's not just the head coach. It's Jude McAdamney too, for sure. It's Shane Bowen as well, obviously. But there's one guy who overlooks all of that, who decides to dress Jude McAdamney, who decides to employ Shane Bowen, who signs off on Shane Bowen's situational game plans, like dropping 8 in coverage at the end of the game. And that guy is Brian Daboll. And so I've said this once before, and I'll kick off the show by saying this again. Jaxson Dart doesn't need Brian Daboll to be a successful quarterback. He is clearly talented. A bad coach is the only thing that's going to stunt his growth, and he has a bad coach right now. So I understand making a mid-season change is very difficult to do, but at the end of the season, to me, losses like this one, losses like the one in Dallas, they tell me that Dart will be better off without Brian Daboll, that this team will be better off without this coaching staff. So sure, I might change my tune next week if we beat the Philadelphia Eagles. It's totally possible. But right now, looking at these losses that the Giants have had, they shouldn't have had any of them. They've beaten themselves in nearly every single one of these losses, and a team that consistently beats itself is a poorly coached football team. If there's one thing we should take away from the first 2 months of the season, is that the New York Giants are a poorly coached football team, and on the inverse, they do have some talent this year, and that's why these losses are extra hurtful and more disheartening than they have been in years past, because for once, I finally feel like this is a talented football team being put to waste.
Before we get to Chris, big shout out to SeatGeek for sponsoring this portion of Giants Collective. As always, if you want to go check out the New York Giants play, you want to see Jaxson Dart and Cam Scadaboo do their thing, you want to buy some tickets, hit the promo code, click the link in the description. Make sure you do that. Enter that promo code Giants Collective 10 to get 10% off your seats at SeatGeek. You might as well get a discount. The Giants didn't give us much of a discount in the 4th quarter. I tell you that. They got killed in the 4th quarter. But, yeah, check out SeatGeek. Make sure you get your tickets for 10% off. Chris, we watched the game together.
Yeah.
I think we were kind of in disbelief. If you watched my reaction, you knew I was never comfortable at any point in that game. But take us through it.
I mean, I was stunned for the first 3 quarters, and I was stunned for the last quarter. I didn't, I was stunned at how well the Giants played. I thought it would be a competitive game. I think I predicted 17-16. I thought it'd be a very close game.
It's like doubled that.
Yeah, it ended up being a 1-point game, but I didn't think it would be that high scoring. And through the first 3 quarters, it kind of was in line with what I thought. Low scoring, a lot of punts, 2 strong defenses, and then everything unraveled in the fourth quarter. But the first 3 quarters, the Giants looked like one of the best teams in the NFL. You went into Denver, one of the hardest places to play and win. As we talked about on the show, Denver hadn't lost at home in over a year. In over a calendar year, they hadn't lost at home, and the Giants had them shut out through the first 3 quarters, 19-0, like Anthony said. And you could go back in the Eagles game. It's like 5.5 consecutive quarters where the Giants didn't surrender a point on defense. And then everything just unraveled in the fourth quarter. You could point to several different things. I saw people on Twitter saying that the altitude, the team wore down. I'm sure that's a factor, but that's not an excuse. Bowen's coaching, of course, at the end, playing off man. Brian Daboll's that made several questionable decisions throughout that game. You could start with the going for 2 when they were up 19-0 when you're chasing points that early in the game. Like you could say, oh, well, he didn't believe in his kicker. Well, if he didn't believe in his kicker, well, then why did he have the kicker line up at the end of the game to kick the extra point when it was a much more vital time in that game?
And I asked you that before they scored. You said, let's score first. But I even said to you, what do we do if we score a touchdown?
Yeah.
And you said, let's score first. And we saw.
Yeah. But the fact that Daboll kicked the extra point there leads me to believe that it wasn't a lack of confidence in his kicker. It was that he was trying to chase a point there, which didn't make sense that early in the game. You go up 20-0. So that was a bad decision. I thought the decision before the half by Brian Daboll, it didn't end up biting them in the ass, but to have Jaxson Dart roll out and throw, leaving them over a minute to try to score a field goal before the end of the half when you have a rookie quarterback. He didn't take the sack. He didn't throw it away. He gave Denver an opportunity to put up points there before the half. That didn't bite the Giants in the ass. But where it did bite the Giants in the ass, Baddog, as you said during the live stream, was electing to throw on 3rd and 5 with 4:50 to go in the game when Denver had already used their first 2 timeouts. Almost certainly Denver's not going to use their 3rd timeout there because they're going to want 2 stoppages. They're going to try to score a touchdown before the 2-minute warning so they could kick off and try to get the ball back. So if you run the ball there, and again, with a rookie quarterback on the road, and as good as Jaxson Dart played, he threw for under 50%. So the percentages are not in your favor there that you're more than likely going to pick up the first down throwing the football. If you run the football there, even if you don't pick up the first down, which you likely won't, 40 seconds is coming off the clock, plus another 10 to 15 seconds with the punt. So they're going to have 4 minutes to score 11 points with 2 stoppages, 1 timeout, and a 2-minute warning. That was a horrible decision, in my opinion, at least, for Brian Daboll to even attempt a throw there and to put your rookie quarterback in that situation. So there are a lot of things in that game where I think Brian Daboll deserves a lot of scrutiny. I'm not calling for his job yet. Like I said last week, I'm giving him the year at this point. I'm going to give him the year, and then I'm going to make my judgment what they need to do with this coaching staff. That's my point of view on the situation. Anthony, like he said, a lot of positives, but it's hard to come out of that game feeling positive when you had one of the worst collapses in franchise history. And you think about how that would have completely changed the season for the New York Giants. Suddenly you're 3-4. You're coming off back-to-back wins against the Eagles and the Broncos. 3 out of your last 4 games, you beat 3 playoff teams. They beat the Chargers 2 weeks before that. Instead, you have one of the most embarrassing losses in franchise history. And you can point to several different things. You can point to the kicker. Jaxson Dart, yeah, there's a reason for optimism. It does feel like, and again, it's early, but through 4 starts, Jaxson Dart looks like a franchise quarterback, or at least he looks like he's trending towards being a franchise quarterback. He just went up against one of the best defenses in the NFL without any of his top weapons, and he went out there and he looked fantastic. I don't care what PFF says. He created several big plays, bought time in the pocket. He was great, and I think he's only going to get better. So, yeah, there's encouraging things. The offensive line looks good. Andrew Thomas locked down Nick Benito, man. And the defense through 5.5 straight quarters looked great, but they fell apart there in that fourth quarter. So we'll see how they rebound. But, well, I do agree that long-term, the big picture should be Jaxson Dart and the future development of this football team. It's hard to come out of that game feeling positive after you gave up a 19-point lead heading into the fourth quarter when you had the game in hand. And all they had to do was run the ball, in my opinion. That game's over. If they run the ball there and punt, that game is over. The only way they lose that game is if they recover an onside kick. But that was a horrible decision by Brian Daboll to throw there.
I'll try not to talk too long, but there's a lot of things to go over in this game, without question. And yes, I believe the loss falls squarely on the coaching staff. And like Anthony said, this is the second one we fucked up. When I did my post game, normally I scream and yell, and I even said after, like, it might have been after you left, I said, I'm not even mad. I'm like hurt. Like I was hurt. I was upset. I wasn't mad. And I looked at the game in Dallas. I said, Shane Bowen never learned. The one thing I took out of this is how good Jaxson Dart really is. And as I processed this loss, I actually turned a corner and became extremely positive about the Giants. Anthony mentioned, they're a good football team. I don't give a shit what their record says. This is a team that years previous would get blown out in Dallas. We dominated. We didn't finish. This is a team that wouldn't sniff a win in Denver a couple of years ago last year. They dominated for 52 minutes, and unfortunately, the game is 60 minutes long. The coaching staff fucking gave it away again. You're looking at Jaxson Dart, who just put up 66 points against Philadelphia and at Denver against an elite defense throwing to Bo Collins, Little Jordan Humphrey, Wan'Dale Robinson, and Jalen Hyatt. These are his receivers. There's two guys in the practice squad that are in his wide receiving core. And the Giants have scored 10 touchdowns on offense. The offense is good with nobody there. The offensive line has been fantastic. And that's really encouraging. Anthony, I couldn't agree with you more. You don't need, Jaxson Dart does not need Brian Daboll to be a good quarterback. He is a good quarterback. He's going to make mistakes. He has to learn. I thought Chris knows this because he mentioned when we were doing a live stream, you got to run there. You can't pass with 4:50 to go. If you're up by 3, if you're up by 6, I get it. I get it. At that point, you want to be aggressive. You want to try to end the game. There's a time to be aggressive and there's a time to be conservative. When you have a possession to play with, you run. This doesn't mean you're not picking it up. Maybe Scatterboo gets 6 yards. You know what I mean? Maybe Jaxson Dart, maybe you RPO and he runs for 6 yards and you get a first down and the clock continues to run. But when you take a chance like that, the only way Denver was going to come back is by exactly what happened. Now, when I first watched the game, I thought he didn't see the linebacker. I didn't realize Scatterboo got run over and his feet were being tangled. And he got nothing on the throw. But regardless, you don't put him in that situation, not because you don't believe in Jaxson Dart, just because it's not the right time to make that play call. Run the fucking ball. And Chris,
especially Baddog, when you had an example earlier in the first half when it was, and I'm not killing Jaxson Dart. He's a rookie. You're going to make mistakes as a rookie. But in the first half, he was in a similar situation where it was clearly obvious if nobody's open, fall to the ground.
You said take a sack and he threw an incompletion.
You need the 40 seconds to come off the clock there.
Yeah.
Why put him in that same circumstance there in the fourth quarter with 5 minutes to go when you know he's going to try to make a play and try to make something if it's not a perfect circumstance where that's the only way you're throwing the football there because the 40 seconds are so valuable to come off the clock there. So I'm in complete agreement. They should have run the football there. That was
the clock is your friend at that point.
Yeah.
So if they don't take a timeout, Chris, like you said, they lose a minute. If they do take a timeout, they're out of timeouts. And then they got to go the length of the field at least once to score because they need a touchdown at some point. So if they go down the field, they're probably going to get the ball to the 25-yard line there. Say they take their timeout. They get the ball back at 4:40 to go. They're at their 25 because we were on the 35-yard line when this happened. So they get to the 25. They're going to go 75 yards. And say they go 75 yards in 2 minutes or 2.5 minutes. They're kicking the ball up with 2:20 to go. And they don't have any timeouts. At that juncture, they either have to kick an onside kick or the Giants run it once. It goes down to the 2-minute warning. You run it again. It goes down to 1:15. You run it again. It goes down to 30 seconds, 28 seconds. Then you punt. They have the ball with 18 seconds. All you got to do is look at the way Detroit played it last night against Tampa when they had a 2-possession. That's all you have to do. And guess what Detroit is? A winning football team. Guess what the Giants should be right now? A winning football team. You win in Dallas. You win in Denver like you're supposed to. You are now 4-3. And this game against the Eagles is for first fucking place in this division. They're literally about 8 seconds away from playing for first place. That's Coaching. Yes, the players need to be held accountable to some degree. You got to make some plays. You got to make some stops. Deonte Banks is a fucking nightmare out there. And I know he had some injuries, but as a coaching staff, you got to figure out the best way to prevent this shit from happening. And they never seem to do it when it matters most. And that's the difference in the NFL between being 4-3 and being 2-5. So I agree. Shane Bowen, well, we'll talk about Shane Bowen now, but Brian Daboll has not done a good job at all. And he's clinging to Jaxson Dart like this is my lifeline. But if the guys upstairs can see this shit and they can see how good he is, they should understand, like Anthony said, you don't need Brian Daboll for him to be successful. He has talent.
You know? And a lot of what Jaxson Dart's doing that's so impressive is off script. It's not even a product of the offensive scheme or the coaching. He's making these plays on his own, like that throw to Wan'Dale Robinson where he breaks 2 tackles in the pocket, scrambles to the right, throws across his body, completion, or the 4th and 17 across his body, completion as well. These are off script, out of structure throws that he's making on his own, which just makes it even more apparent to me that he's not a product of an offensive scheme. He's not game managing in any way, in any sense of the word. He's doing it on his own. He's talented, independent of his coaching staff. So it's just all the more reason to look at him as his own independent figure and say he doesn't need this coaching staff dragging him down and costing him games the way that they are. And I love that you brought it up, Bad Dog, on that 3rd and 5. Obviously, that was the most head-scratching decision in the world to throw the football there, especially Cam Scatterbo. You mentioned him. He's running like his hair is on fire in every single play. It's the 4th quarter. Who wants it more than Cam Scatterbo? Put the ball in his hands. He was averaging 4.1 yards after carry. After contact per carry in that game. They only needed 5 yards. All the offensive lineman had to do was give him 1 yard and let him pick up the next 4 by himself by running through people. It's what he was doing all game long. It's that easy, and I don't understand how the Giants made it that complicated. And, of course, like you said, all of the implications of just running out the clock. And on top of that, how many times did the Giants have delay game penalties in that game? I think there's 3 of them. And how many times were they a second away from another delay of game penalty? They had to have had probably close to 10 close calls for delay of game penalties in that game. They just couldn't get out of the huddle and couldn't get on the line of scrimmage quickly enough. And I understand rookie quarterback trying to hear in a noisy environment. It's Denver. All of those things true. But we also know this is a very complex offense, right? We always hear that. Brian Daboll's offense is exceedingly complex. They're very long-winded play calls. And it's also on the head coach to just say, let's simplify the process, get yourself on the line of scrimmage as soon as possible. The best thing that Jaxson Dart does is plays with an up-tempo offense. So I really don't understand why in that we were just waiting to get to the line of scrimmage with 5 seconds left on the play clock. You can waste the time on the line of scrimmage. You don't have to risk the delay of game. He can stand up there. He can call out some dummy cadences, and you can waste the clock that way. You don't have to set up on the line of scrimmage with 2 seconds left on the play clock. It was just awful clock management all the way around from Brian Daboll and his coaching staff. I honestly can't believe how bad it was, especially that decision to throw there on 3rd and 5 against a 0 blitz with a rookie quarterback. It was just so obviously going to go the wrong way. Just run the ball and kill the clock and win the game. It's so simple.
Yep. So that brings us to, Chris, obviously the 4th quarter was a fucking disaster. I mean, all of a sudden the defense, which couldn't do anything wrong, couldn't do anything right. How much of this loss falls on Shane Bowen? We know the end of it falls on Shane Bowen.
Yeah.
We heard Brian Burns screaming in the locker room, why the fuck are we dropping 8? I wasn't talking about Shane Bowen. He didn't think anyone was going to catch that. Let's be honest. How much does Shane Bowen shoulder to blame?
I mean, of course, a lot. But I also don't want to take away some of the responsibility from Brian Daboll. Brian Daboll is not a quarterback coach. He's the head coach. He's responsible for the entire team. So I don't want to make Bowen the complete punching bag. And there were other factors. I do think that the mile-high altitude played a factor as that game wore along. They did have 2 significant injuries in the secondary with Adebo and Holland. They went down. Banks got inserted to the lineup. So I'm not going to put it all on Shane Bowen. But that last drive, to allow them to go 60 yards with no timeouts in 30 seconds is absurd. And the fact that they were playing off as much as they didn't learn from the mistake they made against the Dallas Cowboys. At the end of the day, Shane Bowen's defense, and the players have to take responsibility as well. I'm not going to excuse them. They had 8 guys in coverage. You can't give up those big passes.
Right.
But at the end of the day, Shane Bowen's defense has been put in an ideal scenario to close out 2 games this year, the Dallas Cowboys game and this game. Regardless of what happened before that, You got to give PI call. You scored the touchdown. You took the lead. 30 seconds. They have no timeouts. To allow them to go 60 yards with no timeouts is insane. And a very similar thing against the Dallas Cowboys when they allowed them to get in field goal range. And he didn't learn from his lesson. He also, was it Dex that wasn't out there? One of the
Dex wasn't out there.
Dex
Right.
wasn't out there for the first play. So our best defensive lineman wasn't out there to close out the game, only rushing 3. It's like he didn't learn from the Cowboys game. So, yeah, Shane Bowen deserves a lot of hate. I don't expect Shane Bowen to be back next year, even if Dable is back. I think they're definitely going to make a change for the defensive coordinator because there's no excuses at this point. Like Anthony said earlier, it's not a perfect defense, but there's talent on this defense. You can't convince me otherwise. If Wink Martindale was the defensive coordinator for the New York Giants this year, we have 4 wins. We have 4 wins. As bad as we're roasting Brian Dable, deservedly so, if Wink Martindale was the defensive coordinator for this team, we win the Cowboys game and we win this past game. That alone should cost Shane Bowen his job at the end of the year.
You know what is head scratching to me? This is what's head scratching to me. So on 3rd down and 5, when we should be running the ball, we get aggressive and we fucking throw it and we throw an interception. And then when you should be aggressive on defense, you rush 3 guys and sit back and let them scan the field all day. And it wasn't a 10-yard pass. It wasn't an underneath pass where you get 10 yards or 12 yards and you tackle the guy. It was 30 fucking yards. How do you drop 8 men into coverage and give up a 30-yard pass in the middle of the field? He didn't even need to make a hard throw. The guy was just standing there in front of everybody. How does that even happen? How is there that breakdown in communication in the secondary? Why are we only rushing 3 guys? Fucking bring heat. Make Bo Nix make a play. Make it hard for him. And if he does, hey, you tip your cap. But maybe you get home. Maybe you deflect the pass. They deflected how many passes in that game? Maybe you get a sack. And you get a sack, the game's pretty much over. But no, we're going to be really scared. We're going to sit back. I don't understand it. So they're aggressive when they shouldn't be, and then they're conservative when they shouldn't be. They don't know how to close out a football game. This is the type of shit that should cost coaches their job. Yes, I understand it's not all the coaching, but you look at what we did in Dallas. How do you make the same mistake twice? That shit should never happen. Yeah. I don't understand. And then you had to take your best defensive player up. You're going to rush 3. You leave Carter out there, and you leave Burns out there, and you leave Dex. Why is Dex not in there? That makes no sense.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
And you make a really good point there with the batted passes. The Giants batted down several of Bo Nix's passes throughout that game. Why would you not want at least 4 defensive linemen on the field to get your hands up in those passing lanes and bat them down? Especially Dexter Lawrence did that in the game, and then he's not on the field for a crucial moment in the game.
Anthony, that was my biggest key to the game going in when we talked about it on the show, and the Giants did that for the first 3 quarters. I felt like I was watching a volleyball match. They were spiking pass after. They must have had 6 or 7 deflected passes in that game, and it just went up in arms. It went away in the 4th quarter.
And not to, also on top of that, not to keep going back to Brian Dable and nitpicking, I do want to
go back to
hear.
He deserves it.
I want to hear, because I saw somebody kind of mention this, and I did have this thought as well when the Giants had the ball on the 1-yard line with, 40 seconds left to play. Do you guys think they should have tried to run the clock down at all? They scored on 1st down. They immediately got in the end zone. I'm curious what you think.
I get it, Anthony, and I saw people bring that up on Twitter. And to be completely fair, even during the live stream with Baddog, I said the Giants may be better off if he didn't score, because I have no faith in this defense to close out the game. But at the end of the day, Anthony, I can't kill them for that, because here's the thing. If you intentionally don't score on that first play, like is what you're proposing. If you intentionally don't score on that first play, if you come up a yard short, what if you get a holding penalty? What if you fumble the ball? Sure. What if there's a false start? We talked about all the penalties. What if there's a delay of game? So suddenly, you got to take the points there. There's 30 seconds. Your defense has to close out the game.
I agree with you. I'm with you. I just wanted to pose the question and see what you guys thought, but I'm totally with you, because my first response to it when I asked the question was, well, I remember they went 4 full plays and didn't score against Washington in week 1. So you can't run that risk. So you just have to have your defense make the play. And you know what? It is on the coach. The coach needs to be better. You're not playing to your strengths. The strength of this team, the defensive line. The defensive line needs to be the focal point to close out the game in that situation. You have to have at least 4 guys on the defensive line, and you have to let them get after the quarterback and not drop back and prevent defense. But at the same time, the defense needs to play better in that situation. Yes, mile high, they're winded, whatever. Drew Phillips got turned around on that deep in route to Marvin Mims.
Yeah.
How do you get turned around and prevent defense? Prevent defense is keep everything in front of you and jump onto the ball or jump to make the tackle. So why, when this in route breaks inward, is he turned around doing a speed cut to try and get back to the ball? That makes no sense whatsoever. So there is an element to pointing to the coaching staff because they did royally fuck this one up. But at the same time, there are some serious weaknesses on the back end of this defense, but that actually feeds further into this argument. You know that there is, if there's anywhere that there's a lack of talent on this defense, you know that it is in the secondary, especially when Paulson Adebo and Javon Holland are sidelined. So why are you putting the game in the hands of the secondary? Why not put it into the hands of the defensive line? Why not rush the quarterback in that situation? It makes no fucking sense to me.
Yeah, but Knicks had 61 yards passing through 3 quarters. I mean, they definitely went preview. You can say they got gassed or whatever. I mean, how gassed were they really? I don't think they were on the field that long. Our offense scored a lot of touchdowns. We had a lot of drives. I mean, they obviously got soft. And I understand when I'm 19-0. I thought when we got the touchdown back and they made it 26-8, I thought we were in pretty good shape at that point. But, you know, that's the fucking Giants, and that's what we do. But, you know, to go to a positive, and I know people are like, oh, he was only 15 of 33 and blah, 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 blah. I love when people try to crap on Jaxson Dart. It's funny to me because Jaxson Dart is doing incredible things against really good teams in really tough situations with, like I said, you're throwing to 2 practice squad wide receivers. I mean, give him Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson. Give him A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Give him CeeDee Lamb and George. But what do you think we'd be doing with those wide receivers? If we're scoring 10 touchdowns in 2 games against those 2 teams with our number 3 receiver being our number 1 receiver,
he was the only receiver that made a catch in the game.
Yeah.
It was all tight ends and running backs outside of Wan'Dale Robinson in that game. Yeah.
Anthony, what do you think about Jaxson Dart's performance in Denver overall?
Listen, this is why you have to take everything that PFF puts out there with a grain of salt, because if you actually watch the game, you understand that Jaxson Dart played a great game of football. And I think it's important just because I do know how the PFF grading system works. Like, I've talked to people at PFF and I've done my research on it. It's important to note that they do not factor in situations, right? If it's 4th down and, you know, they don't factor that stuff into the grading. The grading just works on, did they make a positive play? Check. Did they make a negative play? It's a deduction. And they all start at 65. So that's why you have average grades of around 65. That's not a bad grade. So just to clarify that. But when you look at how PFF grades, it doesn't correlate with what you see on the football field because of the lack of situation and lack of knowledge that they have over what the play call is, over whether or not Jaxson Dart switched things at the line of scrimmage, which he did do a lot if you really watch the game closely, killed a lot of plays, changed a lot of plays, doing stuff, high-level quarterbacking stuff for a rookie that you don't often see. So if you were grading him on that, he's probably acing it, you know, passing with flying colors. But again, just PFF, disregard it. Watch the way the kid played. He battled through intense adversity throughout that game. I've said this before about Jaxson Dart. He makes the offensive line look better. The offensive line is playing good football right now. Don't get me wrong. But Jaxson Dart is standing in some tight pockets, navigating them and avoiding pressures. So you see Andrew Thomas has 0 pressures, 1 pressure, 2 pressures. Well, a lot of that is the quarterback moving out of the way of those pressures so that they never come to him. Dart is so good at that. It's like he's got eyes in the back of his head. It's one of the rarest traits that you will find in any quarterback, period, let alone a rookie quarterback. His ability to just sense the pressure, manipulate the pocket, bail on the pocket, and make plays on his own is absolutely incredible, and it's why I'm truly convinced that there's something special brewing for the New York Giants at the quarterback position. Now, he's not perfect. The interception, they never should have thrown it there. Still his fault. You can't make that kind of a throw in that situation, right? He's a rookie. On top of that, I do think he needs to sort out his deep passing accuracy. A lot of people want to dunk on Jalen Hyatt. I think you guys both know my least favorite New York Giant of all time, arguably, is Jalen fucking Hyatt. I can't stand watching that guy play football. I think he's the worst wide receiver I've ever watched. That play was not his fault. He was running at 21 miles per hour. I know that he turned his head around. I know he wasn't necessarily flying at 22 miles per hour, whatever you want him at. He did turn his head around. He did slow down a little bit. That ball was overthrown. Several of Jaxson Dart's deep balls have been overthrown throughout that game. He even underthrew one that gifted them a defensive pass interference. That's great, but just the deep passing accuracy has been lacking for Jaxson Dart, and it's a mechanical thing. He just needs to set his base and step into these throws a little bit better, and that takes time, that takes reps. It's just one of those things that a rookie needs to develop, and he will. Josh Allen had the same problem when he was a rookie. Now he's one of the best deep ball passers in the NFL, so it just takes time. But that's really it. Outside of that, I think he's really good with the intermediate passing. He's good off script. He's good bailing on those pockets and creating clean pockets for himself, and he's a really good runner of the quarterback too, and he's really starting to pick up on those full reads, reading the full field and making those third level progressions. So I'm super impressed with Jaxson Dart. I think through 4 starts, you've gotten a lot more than you could have ever asked for from him. And now it's just about the rest of this New York Giants team figuring it the fuck out so that this young quarterback can start thriving.
Chris, what do you think about his performance in Denver?
I'm stunned at how good he's looked. Not just in the Denver game, but through his first 4 starts. When you factor in the opponents he's gone up against, the Chargers are no slouch on the defensive end. The Eagles, of course, are no slouch on the defensive end. And, of course, the Broncos are no slouch on the defensive end. When you factor in his first 4 opponents, you factor in that Malik Neighbors hasn't played. For the most part, Darius Slayton hasn't played in a lot of these games. He's been ridiculous. Now, the deep ball thing, I completely agree. I remember a lot of people, I was watching a lot of film breakdowns of Jaxson Dart, right after we drafted him. And a lot of people talked about his lower body mechanics and why he doesn't throw the best deep ball because of that. That's something that he needs to clean up as he continues to grow. But that's something that's correctable. Do I ever think he's going to have a Josh Allen deep ball? Of course not, but nobody does. Do I think he could be a very capable deep ball passer? 100%. The other thing I'll throw in about the deep ball, and maybe this is just me making excuses, whatever it may be, at least my thought process after the game, because like you said, Anthony, there was like 3 or 4 deep balls that he overthrew the receivers by a good 3 or 4 yards. Do you think the thin air had anything to do with that? The fact that he's not used to playing in that environment? I would think the ball travels a little bit further when you throw it.
Yes and no. I think on some of those overthrows, it certainly did. But just because it's been a problem even when he was at home, I know MetLife has some pretty bad wind too, but he's had this problem for the last few weeks. And like you said, even at Ole Miss, he had this problem. It's a mechanical thing. So I think it played a role, but I don't think that it was the sole reason that he missed on those deep passes.
Yeah, the thing that's funny is in the Saints game, and I'd have to go back and watch it, I thought he was coming up short on all the deep ball throws. And in this game, for the most part, they were all long.
Yeah, so maybe the mile high air did have something to do with it. I'll tell you what the mile high air didn't do was help our kicker, Jude McAdam. So I thought it was going to help the kicker actually put the ball between the uprights, and it didn't do that. So
maybe he just overadjusted, because he knew he underthrew. Well, I know on the flea flicker in New Orleans, he threw it flat-footed. He didn't step into it at all.
Right.
The one thing you talk about all the off-script plays. One thing Jaxson Dart has, and I remember saying I felt like this is something Daniel Jones lacked when he was here anyway, is instincts. You don't teach that. Jaxson Dart's instincts are incredible. Like you said, Anthony, to be able to maneuver within the pocket, his poise and composure in a tight pocket, to escape pressure without taking a sack or keeping the play alive, and everything that he does, and throwing the ball really well on the run. He can also take off and run with the ball. He just does so many things so well for a kid that's 22 years old and just playing his 4th start in the NFL, especially in a place like Denver, which is almost impossible to win. And for all intents and purposes, Giants won that game. The other thing I love about Jaxson Dart is his resolve. He turns the ball over 3 times in New Orleans. Should have never lost in New Orleans. We moved the ball all day. And they didn't stop us once. Giants stopped themselves. Scatterboot fumbled the ball in the 15. It was returned 85 yards. Slayton fumbled inside the 35-yard line. They got a field goal before the end of the half. Slayton dropped the pass inside the 20-yard line. Jaxson Dart fumbled right at about midfield. So the Giants moved the ball all day against New Orleans, but he has a bad game. What's he do? Comes back in a short week against the defending champions at prime time, a game we haven't won in 10 years, and he has a great game, and the Giants blow them out 34-17. So in this game alone, throws a bad interception. Denver goes down, scores a touchdown. Then Denver comes back and takes the lead. What does Jaxson Dart do? Makes a gigantic play in 4th and 19 to keep the game alive. Now, we got a break in the pass interference. Is it technically a pass interference? Yes, it is. Can't impede the receiver from coming back to get the ball. I wouldn't have called it in that spot. I thought that it was a gift. But regardless, that was 1st down. We don't know. He might have got down there anyway, might not have. But he got down there, and we don't even have that play if he doesn't convert on 4th down and 19. And then he scores to go ahead touchdown. This is after he made a bad interception. And you saw his emotion on the side, man. This kid wants it. That's the other thing about him. And you could tell in his postgame, he was torn up that they lost, and it really wasn't his fault. The defense gave up 33 points, and the kicker can't make a fucking extra point. Jaxson Dart did everything he could to win. He carried that team. I love that about him. I love that he wants it. I love that he's emotional. I love that he was hurt from this shit. And that's why I think the Giants can beat Philadelphia on Sunday, because I don't think it affects him. I don't think he sits there and goes, oh, God,
I agree with that.
I don't think he does that shit. I don't think these guys don't feel sorry for themselves. Like, fuck it, let's go out and beat somebody's ass for that. We'll see how they do in Philadelphia.
And his biggest strength, and Anthony mentioned, I see people in the chat mention it, is his pocket awareness. It truly is like he has eyes in the back of his head. The Daniel Bellinger throw, I mean, the throw wasn't like incredible. Bellinger was wide open, but his ability to scan the pocket, buy himself that extra time, constantly looking downfield. He's like the complete opposite of Daniel Jones. Not that I want to make this a Daniel Jones thing. He's been fantastic. He's one of the front runners for MVP.
Yeah, he's been awesome. He's my fantasy football MVP. I can tell you that.
Yeah, but as far as when he was with the Giants, he didn't do the things that we're seeing from Jaxson Dart. He didn't keep his head down the field, maybe in his rookie year, but he regressed thereafter. Dart definitely has that. That to me is by far, at least so far in his rookie year, his strongest attribute is his pocket awareness, his ability to allow plays to develop, to create off-script plays.
Yep. And with that said, that brings us to the end of the first portion of Giants Collective, which is, of course, sponsored by SeatGeek. Again, guys and girls, you want to watch Jaxson Dart play? Even the Giants have a bad record. It's worth probably going to watch him play anyway in person. Use that promo code Giants Collective 10. The link's in the description. Click it, get 10% off your tickets at SeatGeek. Let's hear from them. 80 seconds and back at the questions after this. What's going on, guys and gals? You looking for a fun activity? You want to get out of the house? You need something to do? Are you looking for a great gift idea? Well, if so, look no farther than the sponsor of Giants Collective, which is SeatGeek. With over 35 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app. There's more than 70,000 events listed on SeatGeek, including concerts, sports, festivals, and more. Giants season is underway. And say you want to check out Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders at MetLife Stadium? Well, it's easy. Just go to SeatGeek, scroll around, look for the tickets that you want, and SeatGeek's going to have your back. Each ticket is rated on a scale of 1 to 10, so you know you're getting a good deal. Look for the green dots. That's good. The red dots, well, it's not so good. Plus, every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee. And of course, I have a code for you guys. You can use the code Giants Collective for 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. That's 10% off any tickets with the promo code Giants Collective. Make sure you click that link in the description to download the app and have the code automatically added to your account so you can use it later. Thank you, SeatGeek, for sponsoring Giants Collective, and let's go Giants! Well, let's go Giants indeed. I want to give Sleeper a big shout out for sponsoring this portion of Giants Collective. They always sponsor the Q&A part of Giants Collective, and I'll tell you what, man, Sleeper is a lot of fun. Almost 11 million people are on the Sleeper app, so check it out. They have daily fantasy contests. It only takes 30 seconds to enter. You can do it for as little as $1. You can win up to 1,000 times your cash. 2 great promotions going at Sleeper. 100% match deposit bonus up to $100 using the promo code HMA. Again, the link is in the description. Click it, get your free $100. Even better than that, Sleeper right now is giving you a free trial pretty much. All you got to do is open a Sleeper account. That's it. Open a Sleeper account and use our link. $20 free. No deposit required. If you like it, which you will, you'll have a lot of fun with it. You get $20 free to try it out. If you like it, guess what? You still can get that $100 promotion. So check out Sleeper. Make sure you click the link in the description under that promo code HMA and get your free $20. H50. Thank you. He says, we will be talking this week about how Flott was a shutdown corner, but now we have to talk about how cheap the GM is for not elevating Koo to save some money. Well, they cut the kicker today. He's no longer here.
Yeah, thank God.
I don't know what that means for Koo. They talked about Graham Gano coming off IR. If they take him off IR, they better also suit up Koo. We're not going in here with just Graham Gano. They're shooting up 2 kickers. Fuck that shit. We're not doing this again. Don't forget the GM has a hand in us losing the games also.
Of course.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you what. Cordell Flott, Giants got to find a way to keep this guy. He's playing he's our best corner by far. Paul Debo included in that. He's been phenomenal this year for the New York Giants. I hope they keep this guy. And you would think if Shane's back, they will because he drafted the kid. But they got to find a way to keep this kid.
Shane's draft ain't looking so bad right now.
It makes up for the bank. It makes up for the bank.
I did a video on Fireside Giants in the offseason around OTAs where I was OTA / the start of training camp where I was like, keep an eye on the entirety of that draft class because all of them seem to be turning corners right now. Cordell Flott, Dane Belton even, and I think he's looked like a pretty good, one of the best special teams players in the NFL this season. Just that whole draft class looked like it was starting to take steps forward. Sans, Evan Neal, Josh Azito on the trenches, not as good, but Thibodeau's taking a step forward. Flott's taking a step forward. I'm really impressed with Cordell Flott. So I like what we've gotten from him.
Yeah, and Wan'Dale Robinson also, right?
Wan'Dale too, right? So that whole class is just finally hitting its stride now. And I think, it took a few years. Wan'Dale got hurt in his rookie season. Flott, I think the inexplainable and inexcusable error that the Giants coaching staff made was to shove him into the slot in the second season of his career when he is an outside cornerback, but that's just what the Giants do. They try and fit square pegs in the round holes, and that did stunt Cordell Flott's growth. But now that he's had the opportunity to play on the outside, he's taken it and he's run with it. And I definitely want the Giants to extend Cordell Flott. He's been super impressive this season.
He was amazing yesterday, or Sunday, sorry. He was great.
Every
time you looked up,
the Eagles too.
Yeah.
What's that?
It's the Eagles too.
Yeah,
he's really good against the Eagles.
He's really good. It was very funny though for me to do that. I always do that therapy session if we lose on Monday nights, and I'm sure people tune in. It had to be weird for me, one of the most emotional, irrational guys on this platform, to all of a sudden turn a corner after a devastating loss, to sit there and really look at it and go, the Giants are they're a good team. And this is without their best player in Malik Neighbors. And I only wonder what could be and Chris, you might have mentioned this, when you have your quarterback, it's much easier to build your roster. They have him. I know it's 4 games. It's a very small sample size. You can tell he can play at this level. He's the best quarterback in this draft class.
Yeah.
I was a big Cam Ward guy, and I know Cam Ward's in a shit situation, but he's been terrible. Jaxson Dart is the real deal.
Yeah, and I think the point I made, because that's common sense. When you have, like you said, the quarterback's by far the most important position. When you have your quarterback, the rest of the team kind of falls in place. So not completely. You still have to draft well. But I think the point I made was when you have your quarterback and you have confidence in the quarterback, that's when you could do things like the Eagles do with their salary cap. How people are always complaining that the Giants don't do that. Well, I think it's because they haven't had complete confidence in their quarterback. When you do, when the time comes, you could say, well, screw it. We're going to give him a 4-year deal with 3 void years, and we're going to completely free up cap space because we believe in this kid, and we'll extend him after the 3 or 4 years, and the void years will never come into play. So when you have confidence in your quarterback, you don't mind backloading contracts because he can raise the roster. So that was, I think, the point I made. But yeah, I agree. And it's 4 games in. I don't want to go nuts, but he's certainly trending towards being a potential franchise quarterback.
Yeah. He's really good, man. I've been ultra impressed with Jaxson Dart. Ultra impressed. And again, it's just more so his instincts, the way he plays the game. He's a football player. Like, he's smart. You know what I mean? He's very cerebral. He's so young, and he gets it. Yeah, he's going to make mistakes. Shit. The greatest quarterbacks make mistakes.
Yeah.
But I don't think a Giants fan, when they drafted him, could have thought he'd do as well as he is. I don't think you could expect him to do better than he's done, especially against the opponents, so it just fucking hurts.
The PFF doesn't take that into account either, which is dumb.
What's that?
Like, the PFF doesn't take opponent into account.
I am worried about.
That's to be factored in. Like, if you look good against Denver, it's a lot more impressive than looking great against the Cincinnati Bengals.
Jets.
Yeah, or the Jets. Yeah,
or the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah.
But Anthony mentioned at the beginning, the fact that the Giants are a good football team, it makes a shit hurt worse that they lost 2 games that they should have won. And again, if they just hold on for a couple seconds, they're playing for first place. That's how close. The Giants aren't there yet, but that's how close they are. And that's what I try to tell people yesterday and talk them off the ledge, because I know after a game like that, you just want to jump and say, fuck it. But this year was supposed to be nothing for us anyway. Hardest schedule in the NFL, rookie quarterback. We're not picked to do anything. And I think that they're.
I can't blame him though, Baddog, after that catastrophic.
No, I get it, but I was trying to build back in.
I'm still not fully recovered personally from that collapse. But when you try to think rationally, logically, think big picture, going into the year, the big picture was, am I going to leave this year confident that we potentially have a franchise quarterback? And that was the biggest thing for me, and I think that was the biggest fan for almost every Giants fan. And right now, I think it's safe to say that at least it's strongly trending that way. Yeah.
No question. Age 50, thank you, says, I usually watch all Giants podcasts and rewatch all games, no matter if we were to lose. I was doing it again this year, but now it's draining. Sorry for missing some of the podcasts. I love our quarterback, but something has to change. I don't blame you, man. It's tough. I would never want to rewatch that Denver game again. I don't want to see that shit for as long as I live.
I would not. I would never rewatch it.
I rewatched the Eagles game a couple times. That was fun. Yeah. I might rewatch that again.
Yeah.
Like to see a repeat on Sunday. Mm-hmm. But look out, the Kelly Greens are coming out, guys. The Kelly Greens. Oh, those are the Kelly Greens. Ooh, not the uniforms. I just love fucking with Eagle fans on Twitter. I swear to God, it's become a hobby. I swear, I get some free time at work, and I can't help but needle them. They're so soft. All you gotta do is talk about Jalen Hurts. And that's it. That's all it takes. They got one guy showing Jalen Hurts running to his right and throwing a ball at a sideline. He's like, oh, I had dreams about how great this throw is. I'm like, every fucking quarterback in the NFL makes that throw. It's true. Jaxson Dart ran around, spun around, threw it off 1 foot to one of their runs or a touchdown against that Eagle team. What do you mean? Oh, it's good. You got to do it. It's just fun. It's fun. They need it. They need me in their life. They need somebody to keep stepping on their neck. This is SPP Williams. Thank you, buddy. I always appreciate you tuning in from across the pond late at night. He says, happy collective day. This coaching staff is so confusing. Beat the Eagles with one receiver, 32 pass, one of the best defenses with a rookie quarterback and one wide receiver. How many offensive coordinators and head coaches can do that? Not many, to be honest, but then how many blow it like that? Mm-hmm. Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah, I mean, if we're being honest, yes, you have to give Dable some credit for the way the offenses looked with a rookie quarterback with all the limited weapons. But at the end of the day, it's his job as a head coach. He's no longer an offensive coordinator. He's not a quarterback coach. His job as a head coach, and some of his in-game decision making, specifically in this last game, is not something that a great head coach would do. So I think he is. I think he's the biggest reason why we lost that game. If I'm being honest, he's the head coach. I'm very impressed with the way the offenses look, especially with all the limitations, but he's in charge of the entire team. And some of the decisions he's made this year are head scratching. Bowen as well, but the head coach is in charge of it.
Situational coaching has been fucking disgusting.
Yeah.
It's like they don't know how to coach in a situation. It's like the Yankees coming up with second and third and nobody out and not knowing how to get a guy in from third base.
Yeah.
It's the same shit.
I was trying to think about it yesterday. How many coaches would I take Brian Dable over? From a head coaching standpoint,
I would take him over Aaron Glenn.
Yeah.
I'll take him over Aaron Glenn and whatever interim is in Tennessee.
Yeah.
But outside of that, it's kind of tough. I don't know.
I'd have to think. I'd have to look around the league, but I'd have to think. There's a lot of bad head coaches.
I don't know. It's a lot better than fucking Dable.
Well, nobody in the NFC North off the top of my head. I'm definitely not taking him over KOC. I'm not taking him over
North
Campbell.
Too. AFC North is good.
Over LaFleur. Yeah.
I'm sure there's somebody in the NFC South. I'm sure. I don't know, but
Raheem Morris. Is Raheem Morris
at best? He's got to be at best number 25, right? Like at best.
Yeah.
He's definitely not top 10. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, that's for sure.
No, it's definitely not up there. If he was a top 10 coach, we'd be 5-2 right now.
Yeah,
it's crazy. He's a former head coach of the year. It sucks. Like after that 2022 season, we were like, oh, good step one in the right direction. Let's see where we go from here. And it's just been
backwards.
Sure. Yeah.
Man, Deep, thank you so much. Guys, next year, Mike McCarthy, what do you think?
This I've thought about a lot lately because I keep thinking about what Chris said, Tom Thibodeau. right?
That was
You
the
got to
point
get
again.
exactly. Yeah. So sorry to steal the thunder, but like when we were talking about it a few episodes ago and you said that, I was like, that is the perfect analogy. So I'll let you explain that part of the analogy, but I'll just say McCarthy is not necessarily a great playoff head coach. He's got the one Super Bowl. He constantly went to the playoffs when he was with Dallas, when he was with Green Bay, and one way or another, his team kind of choked in those big moments in the postseason. But they were always in the postseason, and that's the most important part for me. The Giants have made it to the postseason twice since Super Bowl 46. That's pathetic. I want this team to be relevant again. I want this team competing in December and January, making it to the playoffs, because all we need is a New York Giants franchise and fan base. Just put us in the dance and watch what happens from there. We learned that in Super Bowl 46 and 42, of course. So I just want to see the Giants be relevant enough to make it to the playoffs on an annual basis. And I think Mike McCarthy, at the very least, he makes you more competitive and a more competent football team, and he increases your chances of making it to the playoffs on an annual basis, which would definitely be a huge step in the right direction, because my entire life watching the New York Giants, we've never been a consistent playoff team. Those 2 Super Bowl runs were excellent. Yes, they had a couple playoff appearances sprinkled in, but since then, I mean, it's been just absolute madness. And even before then, it was pretty poor. So I don't know. I think that's the head coach that's available on the market right now who probably gives you the quickest path to relevancy.
Yeah, I've never been a big McCarthy guy. If you go back and look at my channel, during the Giants coaching search in 2020, I think he was a guy that came up that the Giants could potentially hire in one of their coaching searches, at least, because they've gone through so many in recent years. And I kind of laughed when the Cowboys hired him, because I didn't think he was great for that circumstance. And by no means do I love Mike McCarthy. But I think, and like you said, beggars can't be choosers. You're not going to have a lot of established head coaches that have credentials. At the end of the day, he's a Super Bowl winning head coach. He knows what it's like to build a program. He was with the Packers for a very long time. He's had experience with a lot of great quarterbacks, Dak Prescott, Aaron Rodgers. He would be, like you said, or at least the hope would be, if the Giants were to hire him, the guy that could get the Giants back to respectability, like Tom Thibodeau did for the New York Knicks, the guy that could get the New York Giants on the right trajectory. He may not be the guy that gets you to that Super Bowl, but the Giants, over the last 4 times that they've hired a head coach, they've gone with offensive coordinators, Ben McAdoo, Pat Shurmur, of course, Joe Judge, special teams coordinator, and now Brian Daboll. If they're looking for a head coach, I don't know if it's McCarthy or not, but that's the type of guy I would want them to go after, a guy that has done it before, that has head coaching experience, that knows what it's like to run a program, that has had success in the NFL. I would liken it to what I've said. They need their Tom Thibodeau.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with both of you more. I'm not the biggest McCarthy fan because I feel like his teams always come up short where they need to come up big, and that's in the postseason. But the Giants don't make the postseason. And I feel like if you take a young team, you take a young quarterback like Jaxson Dart, kind of like he did with Aaron Rodgers. Now, Aaron Rodgers, Jaxson Dart's not as talented as Aaron Rodgers. Let's not put him in that boat, okay? But he's worked with very talented quarterbacks. So he didn't really have to mold Dak. Dak was already Dak Prescott. But Aaron Rodgers kind of molded him. So he has worked with great quarterbacks, okay? Dak has failed anyway. It didn't really matter who the coach is. Dak is really good in the regular season, and something trips them up. Not that that hurts my feelings by any stretch of the imagination, but I always felt like McCarthy should have won more in Green Bay. Regardless, he gets them there. And that's half the battle with this team. Get the Giants into the postseason. Get winning football back here. That's the whole thing. He has success. He is an established head coach. He knows how to run a team. He knows how to win. This is what Brian Daboll and Shane Bowen and Mike Kafka don't know how to do. They don't know how to win, and they proved it in Dallas, and they proved it in fucking Denver. They had it won, and they're like, hey, you know what? We don't want this. Here, take it. We don't want it. What are we doing? We're winning?
If Mike McCarthy's our head coach, we don't lose those games.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So while I'm not the biggest fan of McCarthy, I would take him right now. Mike, what are you doing? I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
I take a guy that is a competent head coach. He's very competent.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah.
We need a guy, like you said, Chris, with experience. Stop being fucking cute.
Yeah.
And get a guy with experience. Get a guy that knows how to be a head coach. Brian Daboll, he's a quarterback guru. Good. Then he should be an offensive coordinator. Some guys are meant to be coordinators, and some guys are meant to be head coaches. So Dable don't look like he's meant to be a head coach. He's had a lot of issues with his other assistant coaches and whatever the hell is going on, which is how we end up with Shane Bowen and nobody else.
And
So,
I'm going to be honest. I'm a guy that's willing to change my opinion. And I was a guy that constantly, especially with young quarterbacks, I don't like a lot of shifting and changing of offensive coordinators, as we saw with Daniel Jones. But I look around the league. Caleb Williams is having a much better year this year. He's got a new head coach. Drake May's got a new head coach. He looks like one of the 5 or 6 best quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah.
So if the guy can play, you need a good coach. Don't get it twisted. But if the guy can play the position, he's going to find out a way to make it work.
Anthony said this 3 weeks ago or whatever the hell it was. Like when Jack, you don't need Brian Dable. Why wouldn't you get him a better coach?
Yeah.
If he's this good, get him a better coach. Yeah. It's not going to stun his development. It's not like we went from Pat Shermer to fucking Joe Judge. We're not going from Brian Dable to the special teams coordinator. You're going from Brian Dable to a guy that won a Super Bowl, a guy that coached Aaron Rodgers. Much different situation.
Yeah, that's the thing is Giants fans are still rightfully so traumatized by the fact that the Giants went from Pat Shermer to Joe Judge and really messed up the development and growth of Daniel Jones. That was an awful decision. But again, it wasn't the fact that they fired a bad coach. It was the fact that they hired another bad coach. That was where they misstepped. Had they gotten a good coach in there after Pat Shermer, there's a great chance that the Daniel Jones that we're seeing in Indianapolis, we could have seen in New York, in New Jersey. But unfortunately, they hired Joe Judge. They hired a bad coach. That's what stunted his growth. It wasn't the firing of the bad coach. It was the hiring of another one.
They also didn't get him Malik Neighbors until the very end of his career.
Yeah, that too.
You have that now for Jaxson Dart. Yeah.
Yes. So. Dart's got that. He's got a sick defensive line that can hopefully, when a good defensive coordinator is in here, hold it down for him in the fourth quarter, make plays and help him out like they did against Philadelphia last week. So there's pieces in place. Now it's just about getting a coach who can actually maximize this roster. And again, Dable's not that guy. I think we've learned that. And when you do eventually move on from Dable, because I think it's inevitable at this point, that's not an issue. Moving on from a bad coach isn't the problem.
That's where
hiring a bad coach would be the problem.
I don't disagree with the premise that I think it's probably, at least I feel that way now. I want to reserve judgment to watch the rest of the year. But I definitely am with you that I feel that it's probably going to be in the best interest to move on from Dable. I do not think it's a foregone conclusion that they're going to move on from Dable. I think
we got to see how the season plays out. Like I said at the top of the show, we beat Philadelphia on Sunday. We're going to be singing a different tune next week. So it's a week-to-week league. But if I'm looking at it from right now and just looking at the schedule and looking at all the other factors, it's like there's just it's like I think he's on strike 2 right now with the Dallas loss being a coaching loss, like directly correlated to his decision making, and now Denver loss. When the third one happens, I think it's bedlam. I think that's probably the final strike.
Yeah, behind in the count, Dable. Man Deep, thank you for becoming a member. Appreciate that. Yeah, don't forget to become a member. You want to become a member, get your name in the outros and have the really cool emojis. Become a member. Just click that join button down there. We have a lot more members, but that's because our guy Lucas with the 50 gifted Fibby memberships a week ago, which was amazing. But yeah, become a member of the channel. You can help support Giants Collective that way. Mello, thank you so much. This season's most likely done, but the future looks bright. Get rid of Dable, get a real coach. Look what it did for Maine, New England. There you go. There you go. Yeah. Without question. It's again, you don't want to stun a guy. You don't want to hold on to a bad head coach just because he decided this was the NFL is a business at the end of the day. And listen, if you don't do your job, you lose your job. That's what it is. You can work somewhere and implement a system, and the system might be nice, but if you ain't doing your fucking job, they ain't going to keep you there. They'll keep the system. They ain't going to keep you. So same thing. Jaxson Dart can play. And if you're John Mara, you need to be able to figure that out and say, this kid can play. I don't need Brian Dable. Brian Dable didn't make him like this. Brian Dable liked the way he played, but Brian Dable didn't make him into the quarterback he is.
I see John say, first off, I didn't say that. I just said to Anthony that I think it's very likely Dable could be back. But I see John saying these three have a source inside the organization. Why do people on TV say Dable's job is safe, but these three say otherwise? I don't think anybody knows that his job is safe right now. I also don't think it's a foregone conclusion he's getting fired. I think we have to see the last 10 games, but I think the argument to keep Dable is clear as day. It's what I said going into the year. If at the end of the day, no matter what our opinions are, guys, the only opinion that matters is John Mara. Period. End of story. John Mara came out last year or 2 years ago, whenever it was, and readily admitted that the New York Giants failed Daniel Jones.
Yes, he did.
And I think we could all agree the reason why they failed Daniel Jones, at least partially, or at least the way he may feel why the Giants failed Daniel Jones, at least partially, is because of the constant turnover early on in his career. So that's what Dable's going to go to Mara with at the end of the year if Dart looks good. If Dart looks good and the Giants are competitive and they win 5 or 6 games, he's going to go to Mara and he's going to say, well, do you want to happen to what Jaxson Dart happened to Daniel Jones? Whether or not that's the right thought process or not, we could share our opinions on here. But I do think if the Giants win 5 or 6 games and Dart continues to play well, as I've said all along before the year started, I do think Brian Dable will be back. And I think John Mara, seeing how the Giants failed Daniel Jones, will have a lot to do with it. So by no means, John, am I saying that I think it's a lock that they're going to fire Brian Dable. What I'm saying is I have a lot of doubt about whether or not he's a good head coach, and it may be in the Giants' best interest to move on from him.
We'll see. DRL, thank you. What's up, guys? Horrible loss. How's the rest of our season looking like, in your opinions? We're going to win like 6 games, 7 games. So the Giants are going to win more games. They're going to win more games if we don't fuck it up.
Which is why I think it's very likely Dable's going to come back.
They're going to beat Vegas.
Yeah.
Listen, after Philadelphia, I feel like it eases up a little bit. They should beat Vegas. Vegas is not good.
They're going to beat Vegas.
They should be able to. They can beat Chicago. They can beat Minnesota. They're not impressed with them. They can beat they can beat Washington. They can beat Dallas. Those games are at home. The one game that I look at after Philadelphia and say, I shouldn't even say after Philadelphia because we're going to compete with them too, and we could very well win that game. Detroit's the one team I look at and go, no shot. The rest of them, the Niners are beat up beyond belief. So I look at the schedule and go, Detroit, no shot. The rest of them, we'll see what happens. I'm not guaranteeing wins. I'm not guaranteeing losses. We could lose every one of them. We could win 6 of them.
The Patriots are 5-2 and they look good, but I don't think that's a game we can't win.
Correct.
So I'm not picking them to win all these games, but I do see 5 or 6 wins. I do. I think they're going to find a way to win 5 because Jaxson Dart's playing well, and the offensive line's playing a lot better than they've had in recent years. I think they're going to find a way to win 5 or 6 games.
It's for me on one hand, I think this Giants team is better than their record reflects. But then on the other hand, you are what your record says you are, to quote Bill Parcells. Yeah. And that's where I'm kind of mixed up here. And like I'm just kind of in a conundrum with it because at 2-5, they're still in the race for the division. Like they're very much in it and alive. So right now they're alive because they still have that Eagles team in front of them. And if they win that game, they're right back in the race. But at the same time, they are in last place in the division. So it's just, I think what it really highlights, it's a game of inches. It's a game of moments. And every single moment in every single NFL game counts. And it's a week-to-week league. So we'll take it week by week and we'll see how it goes. But I'm not going to rule anything out.
Clock. Thank you. Ant liked the new room better than the dorm. Chris, red hoodie. Dog, 10-liter Coke. Well, it's 2. And 2, got to give credit to Denver. So we're drinking orange soda today because, I got to give credit to Denver because it's a hell of a comeback. We should have fucking won, though. I also got an orange shirt on, so, what it is what it is. I did not actually plan that. I just grabbed this out of the drawer. Love to lay it on the coaches, but Banks saved replacements screwed bad. They did, but, they're not alone responsible for giving up 33 points, and they didn't call the pass on 3rd and 5, and,
There's blame to go around. The kicker, the offensive play calling.
Right, they didn't miss 2 extra points.
The
make 2 extra points, we win.
There's blame to go around.
If he makes his extra points, we don't even go for 2. So you make the extra points, you have 35 points. You don't lose the game because it's 35.
And more than likely, almost certainly at that point, Dable does run on that play that we're talking about where he throws if you have those extra points in your back pocket. So it is what it is, man.
Yeah, they're up by 12. Sure he does.
13, they'd be up.
Right, 13, yeah. So Elijah, thank you. Did you see Russ's tweet about Sean Payton?
I did. So basically Sean Payton, he didn't say Russ's name directly, but he, it was a passive aggressive comment where he said he came out and he told Mara, I think it was, Peyton, of course, has former ties to the Giants. He was the offensive coordinator here. He came out and told Mara that he was hoping that the Giants would wait to insert Dart into the starting lineup until after the Broncos game, which, of course, Russell Wilson, rightfully so, took as a slight, especially because he struggled with the Broncos. Peyton benched him, couldn't wait to get him out of there. So, yeah, I did see it. And Dart responded. I don't remember exactly what he said, but I know he went at him. He
said classless. He said, I see you're still putting out bounties, this time just through the media.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
Good for Russ. Good for Russ.
I just want to say this about Sean Payton. I can't fucking stand that guy. I don't think he belongs in the NFL because of the bounty gate. I think he should have gotten a lifetime ban. I know when it happened, that was a topic of conversation. He ended up getting a 1-year ban. To me, he shouldn't be allowed on the sidelines. I think that whole situation was a disgrace to the game of football. I think it really hurt the integrity of the sport at the time. And I think that Sean Payton is a classless piece of shit. And I'm happy that Russell Wilson shot back at him.
So am I. Good for Russ. Jason Dangy says, guys, you have to confess, I might be cursed. Every game I saw the first half, we've lost. I missed the first half for both the Chargers and the Eagles game. If it was that easy, Jason, if we had that kind of power.
Well, let's find out, Jason, because I am superstitious. So next game, don't watch the first half.
Yeah, especially against Philly.
He does have that power. So
that'd be amazing. SPP, thank you again, brother. Tournament football is more of a crapshoot than league. Not doing all the playoffs is like Mike McCarthy is much more luck, like England trying to win the World Cup since 1966. Just get there. That's the whole thing, SPP. You just got to get there. Can't win the lottery if you don't buy a ticket. So just get there. With the Giants, that would just do a world of good if they were just competitive every year. If they were like Dallas was. 10-7, 11-6, 12-5, 10-7, but you're in that postseason every year. That would go a long way to restoring their confidence and people taking them as a serious football team. But when you're losing games the way you lose them, where you blow the lead against Dallas or allow them to get a 65-yard field goal, knowing that the kicker can kick the ball forever, and you give them 20 yards right away, or you're giving up 33 points in the fourth quarter and you still have a chance to win. I think a lot of people forget that shit. You still have a chance to win. They still should have won. They don't. What happened with Mike McCarthy? Just get to the postseason.
Well, and to his point, the NFL is a complete crapshoot. That's why we love it. If you could look at the Colts, nobody had the Colts as being the best team, at least on paper. As Anthony said, you are what your record says you are. They're 6-1. Nobody had the Colts as being the best team in the NFL halfway through the season going into the year. Look at the Bengals from a few years ago when they went to the Super Bowl. Nobody foresaw that going into the year. So that's why we love the sport. And yeah, once you get into the playoffs, we know it better than anybody as Giants fans. If you have the right, if you're clicking at the right time, you can win. Anybody has a chance. So that's why the NFL is great.
It's funny, when I drafted Jaxson Dart, Daniel Jones on my fantasy team, and I put that on Twitter, people were like, how much did you have to drink? What's wrong with you? And somebody actually, I remember, tweeted there and goes, well, you were right about Sam Darnold. He goes, can you go 2 for 2? Well, look at me. Look at me. Jason says, if Dart continues to progress and we're competitive, I'd keep Dable, hire a new defense coordinator, sign Pickens, get a corner, upgrade the trenches. We have a quarterback. I don't know if they can afford Pickens. I don't know how they would do it. They don't have a lot of cap space, so that's why I like.
I like the idea of getting a high-end receiver, whoever it is.
That's why I like Waddle. We're going to trade him.
Yeah, but
no money the next 2 years.
But I think that's a clear plan next offseason. And a linebacker. Got to throw that in there. But yes, I think that's a clear plan.
Yeah, we still need pieces, but we're getting there. Like we're getting closer. Like we're literally getting much closer. Again, I want to give a big shout out. I'm kind of going over here. So give a big shout out to Sleeper for sponsoring this portion of Giants Collective. Check them out. Use that promo code HMA. Click the link in the description. Get your deposit. Let's hear from Sleeper. 30 seconds back after this.
Sleeper is the #1 fantasy sports app. It pays to know sports. Pick more or less on top players. Your first pick is on us, so start winning now. Play in Texas, Georgia, Minnesota, and 27 more states. Pick anytime across all sports, pregame or live. Over 10 million players are already on Sleeper. Make your picks count. Score up to 1,000 times your cash. Join today. Get up to $100 credit using code HMA. Call your shot on Sleeper. Download now.
Jason says last year's team would have lost by 20 against the Broncos teams. We're very competitive against very good teams. With a rookie quarterback, that's progress.
It is.
That's why I say the Giants are a good team.
Yeah, and I'm not going to put it all on the coaching staff. Not defending Dable. He was bad. You're also going to go through growing pains with a young team. I mean, you just are. Whether it's Jaxson Dart, there's a lot of young players on this team. So that's part of it, right? So, let's see the rest of the year and see how this team hopefully grows.
That's why the coaching staff is much more important than maybe people think, because it is a young team.
Yeah.
So you have to mold them. This is a bunch of veterans that have been there before.
Yeah.
When you have a lot of young players, man, you got to coach these guys up somewhat, and you got to put them in position to win football games. And Shane Bowen has not put against Dallas and ever. He did not put this team
to close it out.
He did the complete opposite.
Yeah.
He's been a hindrance, and that's a problem. And again, Brian Dable oversees that. Brian Dable could say, what the fuck are we doing? No, we're not dropping 8. No way. We're rushing 4 at least.
Yeah.
Nope. No, not this team. Gemini Don, that is correct, Chris. Mr. Mara admit, I think 2 or 3 years ago, he failed Daniel Jones. So perhaps Mara don't want the same happening with Dart.
Well, I can tell you he definitely doesn't want the same happening with Dart. But that doesn't mean Dable's going to stay. We still have a whole year to play out. But if, at least in my opinion, if the exact scenario plays out the way that I laid it out, 6 wins, Dart continues to play really well, the team is competitive even in losses like they've been this year, I do think Dable will be back.
Jaxson Dart's in a way better situation already. This line is 10 times better than it was when Jones was here. Jones had no Malik Neighbors. Jaxson Dart does now, but that's because of injury. So I already feel like they've done a much better job for Jaxson Dart, setting him up already. And now you're getting a look at what he does, and you can take a look and go, okay, we really got to get this kid a number 2 wide receiver. And then, I mean, look, we're talking about it. If it was Waddle, if you went into next year with Waddle, Neighbors, Scadaboo, and your line playing well, you said, I go, holy shit! Like, scoring points anyway.
The other thing I'll say is people, I think it's a very fair point. I've seen people bring it up to me on Twitter. I've said it in the past as well. If you're constantly firing head coordinators, it becomes a less desirable job, and I think that's true. But if Dart continues to play well, I think it becomes an attractive spot for a good defensive coordinator. But you could also say, well, Dable's on the hot seat, so they could lose their job after a year. But if he continues to play well, there's already talent on defense. I think the Giants are going to be able to bring in a really good defensive coordinator next year. I don't know who it is, but I think it will be a pretty attractive destination for a defensive coordinator to want to come here with the pass rush that we have. If you have what looks to be a guy that could take that second-year leap like Drake May's doing with the Patriots, I do think it could be a very attractive destination for a defensive coordinator.
Yeah, let's see. Or head coach, for that matter.
Yeah, or head coach.
Cruise on. Thank you. I think Bowen will be fine. He just needs to be more aggressive, but I can't ignore 5 shutout quarters. Banks is the bigger concern. He's worse than Keely Ringo. Banks.
He's one of the players I'm most disappointed in, Cruzon. I was a big Banks fan when we drafted him. I was ecstatic.
Next year. Him and Neal are out next year.
So it sucks because I thought he was going to take a step up this year. And the good news is Cordell Flott has done what I thought Banks was going to do this year. But I've been very disappointed with Deontay Banks. Very disappointed.
Baddog said Banks will be gone next year. Banks could be gone next week. He
should be.
I think could get traded. So, and listen, he is such a frustrating player to watch because you talk about a guy that does 9 out of 10 things right. He's right there. The ball just goes right over his head and he doesn't get turned around. And then I guess 8 out of 10 things right because his effort and his body language after every play that he gives up is just so irritating as well. So he's just an irritating player at this point. Kid had a ton of potential. It's been squandered. Right. It's so much talent coming out of Maryland. Again, I've said this before. I'll repeat it, but I don't even think it's worth repeating at this point. He's a zone cover cornerback. They keep forcing him to play man coverage. It's why he's not going to have success here. I just think they need to ship him off, let him find a better environment. Change of scenery sometimes helps these guys. I don't necessarily think it's going to help Banks if he doesn't fix the attitude problem. But again, he's just an irritating player to watch as a New York Giants fan. And honestly, at this point, I hope that they find whatever they can for him and just move on.
He just feels like a player, he's going to be good whenever he leaves the Giants. It just feels, and maybe that's just a negative Giants fan in me, but I just feel like he's going to go to a spot and they're going to get the most out of him.
Oh yeah, like Anthony said, that his effort's got to get better. You're gonna have a
I
lot of
agree with
trouble.
that,
If
yeah.
you don't give effort, you're not gonna get on the field anyway. It doesn't matter how talented. If he goes to a new team and he dogs it like he does here, and maybe it's because he doesn't like Shane Bone or whatever the hell the reason is. Losing McKinney really hurt him. I think Anthony mentioned that one of our first shows that was a big drop off because we had a leader in the secondary and Xavier McKinney, and they were like best friends, and he lost him. Now, it's not making an excuse. You still need to do your job, but he's kind of like a ship without an oar. He's just kind of floating around out there. Maybe he does go somewhere, and he's got a shitload of talent, but if you're not putting forth the effort, you can't rely on talent alone in the NFL. Don't work that. Everybody's talented.
And at the end of the day, Baddog, you can't let that persuade you in whether or not you keep him if you're the Giants. Like, if he works out somewhere else, okay.
That's what I'm saying. I'm sure you don't get the money.
He wasn't going to work here.
You don't want to pay him if he's not giving the effort now, and it's a contract year. You definitely don't want to pay him.
Yeah.
John, thank you. He says so damn frustrating why we didn't win Sunday, and Dart did so much against W. Our Giants fans are sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yeah, I'm with you, Gemini. Don, it's been 7 years since I've been on, however many years I've been on YouTube, of me trying to find moral victories throughout the majority of my time that I've been on YouTube. Outside of 2022, in more recent years, I've gotten a lot more dark and I guess you want to call it realistic because I'm sick of talking about moral victories. There comes a point in time where we want to see real victories, and I think old Giants fans are with me on that. So I'm with you, man. I'm just as impatient as everybody else at this point. I want this team to turn around. But I do think there's hope with Jaxson Dart for sure. But we got to see it first before we're bought in.
It's weird because I'm not a guy for moral victories, but for some reason this year, I feel like they're important because
rookie quarterback. I get it.
Because you have a rookie quarterback, but you're proving that you can play with the best teams in the NFL.
Yeah.
And I think that goes a long way. Now, I made this comparison on my show yesterday, and the Giants aren't going to go 8-1 at any point during this year. But I look at this Giants team, and I think about the 2022 Detroit Lions, who started off 1-7 and just looked like the worst team in the NFL. And all of a sudden, something clicked. They beat us. And I remember thinking we should kick the shit out of these guys. And they beat us, and they went to 3-7. They just got on a roll. In the last game of the season, they had nothing to play for, but Green Bay was trying to get into the postseason, and Detroit beat their ass and knocked them out of the postseason, ruined their season, and they finished 9-8, and then all of a sudden they took off. Now, the big difference is Detroit's head coach is a fucking man. If you like football, you love Dan Campbell. There's no way you don't.
And if I'm not mistaken, Baddog, the year before, didn't they go winless with Campbell? They didn't win very many games.
They didn't win very many games.
I know that. So, yeah, he really turned that program around, and he was this close to getting fired. I mean, they had that awful first year, and like you said, they started like 1-5, 1-6, 1-7, whatever it was, and then they went on the run, and then they built from there. But, yeah, I have my doubts about whether or not – and it's been 4 years of Dable. It's different. It's not like it's
I agree.
Yeah, so – but, yeah, I agree. Things could turn – especially when you get the quarterback. Things could turn real fast, real fast.
Nicole, thank you. I think we'll win 8 or 9. That would be – we win 9, they're going to the postseason. Right?
So right now we're 2-5. For us to win 8, we'll go on the low end of your prediction. They would have to go 6-4 in our last 10 games. It's doable. I'm not going to predict it, but it's doable.
That's not likely, but I definitely think that's doable.
It's doable. I mean, we've been competitive in every game we've played this year. You could argue we should be at least 5-2 right now. I mean, the Cowboys game was a layup. That was a game we absolutely should have won. We absolutely should have won this past week. And the Saints game, we had no business losing. So, just those 3 games alone, you could argue we could easily be 5-2 right now. So, with a young quarterback, if he continues to get better, I wouldn't rule something like that out.
I think the one game where I didn't feel like we had a shot to win was Washington. The first game, even against Kansas City, we had our hands on 3 interceptions, couldn't come down 1. And of course, Okereke couldn't come up with that fumble inside the Kansas City 5. I mean, if they get some of those turnovers, they probably win that game.
I agree.
That's against the 2-time Super Bowl champion and 3-time in a row AFC champion Kansas City Chiefs. But
I'm going to tell you what, the Kansas City Chiefs, and I agree.
Well, they're healthy now. It's a much different team.
I wouldn't label that as a game we should have won, but it was certainly a game we could have won.
Could have, yes.
But I'm going to tell you, the Kansas City Chiefs right now, Baddog,
It's a different team.
They're going to win the Super Bowl. Like they look like the Kansas City Chiefs the last 3 or 4 weeks. Like they
played the Raiders. I mean, it's
been the last 3 or 4 weeks for me.
They're getting healthy. I mean,
that's
and they got Rashee Rice back. I mean, it's obviously changes things now.
They look good.
Our loss, the equivalent to a stock market crash by 1,000 points. Someone must pay for the stock drop in Denver. Sacrificial lamb should be everybody. Well, the sacrificial lamb was the kicker. He's the guy that got slaughtered
this week. Yeah.
Well, if they fuck it up again, it could be Bowen. James, thank you. He says Giants haven't been able to attract a real head coach since Coughlin. We finally have a roster that would attract prime candidates. They can't waste the opportunity. Dable can't handle a position, period. Agree 100%.
I agree. I think Jaxson Dart will attract some very impressive head coaching candidates.
I'm going to be fair, though. I do think Dable was a sought-after head coaching candidate. He might not be working out right now, but I think a lot of teams were interested in Brian Dable as being a head coach in the NFL.
Maybe, but he stinks.
No, I'm not saying he's been good. But I do think he was an attractive head coach when the Giants were in.
Yeah.
Pat Zimmer was not. Joe Judge was not.
No. Well, with that brings us to the close of another edition of Giants Collective. Again, we appreciate you guys and girls tuning in as always. Wish we had won this game. God, our conversation's much different. But of course, in typical Giants fashion, they snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. Big shout out to our sponsors, Sleeper and SeatGeek. Again, you can check us out on TikTok and Instagram as well. Check us out on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, iHeart, wherever you get your podcasts. And, man, enjoy the rest of your week. And we will see you guys and gals on Thursday. We'll talk about the Philadelphia Eagles and how disgusting that city is and how dumb their fan base is. And, just a bunch of potatoes and bandwagon fans and just a bunch of subhuman people that can't read. That's Philadelphia. I'll leave you with that. For Anthony and Diggity, I don't like Philadelphia. And we're going. Peace.